Low fat, organic, healthy. These are words that have become commonplace on the shelf of the average American's pantry. With rising costs of these healthy food alternatives, it seems impossible to be able to afford this new, healthy lifestyle that has become such a big topic of conversation in the lives of people in the U.S. One must not lose hope of being able to obtain a diet of healthy food, however, because there are alternatives to these high-priced health foods. This segment will focus on red meat, replacing beef with venison. Beef is one of the main sources of protein for Americans. The problem is, beef is a very high fat and high calorie protein source. So now we come to the question, how do I replace beef for a cheaper and healthier alternative? The answer is venison. What is venison? Venison is a red meat obtained from a wild game animal, usually a wild ruminant. Examples of venison sources in the U.S. include white-tailed deer, moose, elk, mule deer, and caribou. So now the obvious question to ask is, what makes venison healthier than beef? To answer this question, we need to break down the components into a few categories: fat, calories, vitamins, minerals, and cholesterol content. Based on a study of two different species of deer compared to the common beef cattle, the fat content of the venison was significantly less than that of the beef. It is easier to understand how venison is less fatty than beef if we look at the actual cuts of meat. The beef contains lines of fat running into the center of mass of the steak as well as around its border, whereas the venison only has a thin layer of fat around the perimeter of the steak. This is important to note because the fat of the venison steak can essentially be trimmed off, whereas the beef steak can only be trimmed around the perimeter, leaving the fatty marbling in the center of the steak. In addition, the fat contained in venison is largely composed of the important unsaturated fats our bodies need for heart health. Regarding the categories of calories, vitamins, and minerals, the USDA releases a chart of nutritional information breaking down all these individual nutrients. As seen on the chart, venison consistently ranks among the highest in these important vitamins and minerals, and lowest in the calorie department. This can be attributed to the natural diet of these wild animals, which is well balanced compared to the common corn-fed beef cow. A final comparison of the nutrients of venison and beef reveals that venison contains more cholesterol on average than does beef. This can be seen as a drawback to many, but there is a catch. The slightly higher cholesterol of the venison is not as bad as it may seem, because the higher amount of polyunsaturated fats in the venison would aid in reducing a person's cholesterol levels in the body. This difference is attributed to the low saturated fat of venison. It is important to understand this because although venison contains more cholesterol on average, it is healthier because the important omega-3 and 6 fatty acids reduce the body's cholesterol, where the beef, which is high in saturated fat, would not reduce cholesterol in the body. Now we must address the second most important question. What makes venison cheaper than beef? Venison is cheaper because it is grown in nature and can be gathered by hunting. This answer may seem simple, but comes with many moral conundrums. One must be willing to dispatch a wild animal with the use of a firearm or archery equipment, and must invest a deal of time into the hunt. In the end, a person can gather venison year after year for the cost of a kill tag for the chosen animal and for the cost of a weapon. Alternatives to hunting include buying venison from market, which would be similar in cost to market beef. In the end, wild game meat is as organic a food as you can get. There are no preservatives, no colorings, and no growth hormones. For a person looking to be more health conscious, while not sacrificing red meat in their diet, replacing beef with venison at the dinner table is an option to consider.